Hi everyone, let's go on our learning. The meaning G of words must be the most fascinating type of G. Since there are thousands of words in the world, each with a different meaning at a microscopic level. Each meaning G has a distinct G structure. During a short period in a person's growth, for example, within 2 years, the meanings of the vast majority of words recognized in their brain can remain unchanged. This is, that is to say, the G structures of this meaning G have strong stability. When a person is just born, they know very little, and it is only through continuous growth in the social environment that numerous meaning G are formed. In other words, most of the relatively stable meaning G are acquired later in life. The complex diversity, strong stability, and acquired nature of meaning G are three prominent characteristics of this type of G. Based on these characteristics, we can roughly deduce the following. Firstly, the acquired nature of a meaning G determines that it is acquired through learning. Secondly, the stability of a certain meaning G indicates that during its formation, it must have undergone reshaping by multiple similar G waves. Thirdly, the complex diversity of numerous meaning G reflects the complexity and diversity of the human living environment. Thus, we can easily understand the formation of meaning G, that is, G waves containing the characteristic internal structure of this meaning G are input multiple times, and each input is a form of reinforcement. For example, pick an apple, take off a hat, and remove a light bulb are three different actions, but all three contain the characteristic internal structure of the action pick. In the verbal descriptions of these three actions, the Chinese character "zhai", which means pig, is included. When the dynamic images of these three actions are successfully input into a child's brain through viral G waves due to the divisibility and combinability of G waves. The similar characteristic internal structures of PEG in the three G waves can form three similar secondary G waves. These three similar G waves will be projected to the same location, that is, to form and strengthen the action G of PEG. If the three actions are accompanied by corresponding verbal descriptions, then similarly, the child's brain will also form and strengthen the pronunciation of G of the character J. If actions and descriptions related to pig occur multiple times, then the action G and the pronunciation G of pig will form a relatively stable G connection due to the multiple simultaneous activation effects. When the child grows a bit older and goes to school to recognize the character J, the character shape G of Z will also be incorporated into this G connection. Thus, a combined G of J is formed, which include the action sub-G, pronunciation sub-G, and character shape sub-G. Among them, the action sub-G can also be called its meaning sub-G. The above is the cognitive process of J. We know that the action of J, although it is a characteristic internal structure, when considered alone, is also an independent G wave with a certain time interval. The G waves of several J actions may differ in intensity, time, and dispersion. Similarly, when the pronunciation and shape of J are input through the corresponding sensory G waves, their respective G waves also have a time interval, and the intensity, time, and dispersion of the same type G waves can also vary. However, this difference generally do not prevent the similar activation of G wave projection, which is the content of fuzzy recognition we mentioned before. Since the inputs of the action, pronunciation, and the shape of J are all G waves with attributes such as time, intensity, and dispersion according to the divisibility, combinability, and multi-meaning nature of G waves, we can infer that the combination of any character, word, sentence, paragraph, or even many books can form corresponding cognitive G. However, the G waves that form their meaning sub-G are not all input from sensory G waves, but can also be pseudo reality G waves formed by the combination of characteristic internal structures of the G waves of existing G. Therefore, we can see that in addition to the genetic traits formed through species evolution, the continuous repetitive learning in later life also an important reason why humans are intelligent. Repetition is an effective way to strengthen the corresponding G and G connection. However, in daily learning, especially when learning languages, rote memorization is not advisable. Why? Because rote memorization often fails to effectively strengthen the meaning sub-G of the corresponding words and sentences. One important manifestation is that no pseudo reality G wave of the corresponding meaning appears in the brain, then rote memorization is less likely to form a simultaneous action effect to strengthen the G connection between the meaning sub-G and the character, shape, and pronunciation sub-G of the words and sentences. When fixing the character, shape, and pronunciation of the corresponding words and sentences next time, it is not easy to effectively activate the corresponding meaning sub-G through the activation of the corresponding character, shape, and pronunciation sub-G, and thus it is easier to forget. In contrast to rote memorization is the cognitive process of animals. Animals can perceive many changes in actions in the world due to the existence of G activities in their bodies. They will also form cognitive due of various corresponding action changes. However, they often lack the establishment of stable G connections between effective language and pronunciation inputs and these cognitive G. Different from the human intelligence related to language and characters, animals activate corresponding cognitive G by perceiving changes in the current environment, thereby generating appropriate behaviors. This reflects the acuteness of animals. Many scholars, lacking an in-depth analysis of the underlying principles, simply attribute this acuteness to instinct, which is inappropriate. Okay, that's all the content today. See you next time. Bye bye.